you are inside the United Nations house, which is based on international standards of safety and international standards of security. My colleagues, who you can see are wearing the uniform, will be giving you, in case of any emergency, guidance, will help you, and I hope that we will all cooperate together in case anything happens. Please be mindful that you are a significantly large group of people, and it is our responsibility that you finish your exercise and your activity inside the United Nations house to the best safe procedures, and that you have a very nice and pleasant experience with us. In case you hear any sort of alarm, which indicates fire, after you hear the alarm, you remain calm, and then you will listen to any messages that will be given for you through a system, what we call a public address. In case there's any need for evacuation, instructions will be given to you, and you will follow the fire emergency stairs or other guidance as given by my colleagues and myself as security. Today is your first day, as I understand that tomorrow and Sunday you will also be joining us. I'm sure that all of you do have cell phones with you. So I would like to ask you, please, to take your cell phones, whoever has, and save this number on your personal cell phones. 01 978 002. Don't worry, I'll repeat it. Again, 01 978 002. This number is what we call here in the UN House the Security Control Center, or the Security Operations Center. In case you get lost for any reason, because the structure of this building sometimes you can get lost in the stairs at any place for any reason, you can call this number, identify yourself that you are part of the Lebanon activity, and we will reach out for you and get you. I hope that none of you will have the need to use this number, but in case, you can use this number. One more thing, I'm gonna give you a cell phone number in case you don't have units, so that you use the WhatsApp application, and you can call also a second number. It's 76 888 586. For any need, for any emergency, either you use the 01 landline or the cell phone on WhatsApp service in case you do not have reception or coverage in any part of the building. I'm gonna repeat the cell phone number again, 76 888 586. I'm sure that you're gonna have a very pleasant and nice experience in the United Nations house, and I hope that you will never need to use those numbers. But in case, we are here to help you, we are here to support, to assist, to provide you with any service that you need. I'm not gonna stay long. I think Mr. Karim is next to give you some insights for this program. Again, in any case of emergency, please remember that myself and the colleagues in uniform are here to help you and guide you. Okay. Here we have Lieutenant Seba. He's going to be with you for all this activity today, tomorrow, and on Sunday. Okay. Have a good day. Thank you.
my fellow secretariat, esteemed MUN advisors, fellow press team, admin staff, most distinguished guests, and of course, dearest delegates. Greetings from UN ESQA. I'm Celine, your Secretary General, and it is my greatest honor to welcome you all, whether physically or virtually, for those tuning in online, to the 18th installment and first ever hybrid rendition of ACS Beirut's annual Model UN Conference, Lebanon 22, Disruptive Diplomacy. I would first like to extend my deepest gratitude towards the people that helped make this happen and who allowed me to stand right here at ESQA once more for the first time since 2019, and for me, the last time since the start of my MUN journey in this very hall 5 years ago. Thank you to our partners at UN ESQA, Ms. Shadia Abdullah, Mr. Karim Khalil, the ESQA security team, the ESQA media team. We are so grateful to be able to host Lebanon from the official UN house in Beirut, and for your generous support and sponsorship of all physical attendees and of our international visiting chairs. To our press team and admin staff, the quiet champions of every MUN conference. To our very own development and alumni office for your extensive help with designing and producing our merchandise and delegate materials. To the advisors for your advice, your trust, and specifically to the ACS advisors for making sure I was doing okay throughout this entire journey. To the delegates, to the delegate parents and guardians, some of which are here in the audience today for your cooperation and support. And finally, to my secretariat, for trusting my leadership, for putting your heart and soul into everything we do together, for making me laugh, making me cry, and of course, for reminding me every day of why I do what I do. Today, I would like to start off by expressing the excitement and urgency I feel as I stand in front of you all. Excitement for the thrills of Lebanon you all have yet to experience or re-experience, and urgency for the hard-learned lessons I finally have the chance to share. Of all the MUN Secretary General speeches I've witnessed throughout my delegate years, I remember one sticking out to me. Not because it was intellectually groundbreaking or phenomenal, but simply because it was candid. And that is how I want this speech to be today. I want to remind you all of why we're here. I want you to remember the reason we choose to do MUN and the purpose behind our struggle. I want to show you what can be achieved when MUN is done, not just with the mind, but with the heart. And so, behold a speech that, within the realm of MUN, has been a long time coming. We are now in a time of rapid and constant transition. Surrounding us are crises, conflicts, movements that all rise to and fall from the waves, fall from the media like the waves of the Mediterranean. But when the attention you place on these issues is shallow and fleeting, the results are bound to turn out the same. This is where disruptive diplomacy makes its grand and, well, disruptive entrance. And it's more than just a theme. From a political angle, it's a philosophy. It recognizes that if we are ever to achieve global peace and prosperity, we must look back into the past to identify the root causes of these systemic issues that we, as future diplomats, will work relentlessly to resolve. It sees conflicts not as catastrophes, but rather as opportunities for improvement. It teaches us to grow, not cope, forgive, but not forget, win allies and not debates. I will warn you, the road to change is a myth. It's difficult to navigate your way to a place that nobody has ever set foot on. There is no road, but we can choose to be reactive or proactive. We can choose to break cycles. We can choose to pave our own paths.
This is what she did.
So, be brave, be bold. Look, then leap. When the world implodes, be a diplomat that challenges
Whoever's talking, please
conventional
mute.
standards of decorum.
Or,
And
you know what?
no matter what you do, don't
There's
minimize
here.
a movement into merely a moment.
Here.
I did say disruptive diplomacy was more than just a theme.
Relationship on the
From a personal angle, it's a way of life.
Yeah.
You might be here because you love helping people grow. You might be here because you enjoy the intellectual stimulus this activity brings. You might be here because of an intrinsic love for debate. But whether you're here at cause of the heart, mind, or soul, is that what matters most is not our reason, but rather our purpose.
I'll make sure to call you back.
I want to introduce myself here again differently. Hi, I'm Celine. Not SG Celine, not Celine that sends you lengthy emails and comes on stage with a planned out speech, but just Celine. I was shy as a kid. I loved reading, not speaking. I never even considered making Secretary General one day. I first joined MUN 5 years ago, only to quit, discouraged by the older and more experienced delegates to whom I thought I would never catch up. It seemed as though the system was built to honor those who already possessed this natural flair and eloquence that you either did or didn't have. It wasn't until the next year that I rejoined MUN, this time to learn, not to win. I coached my first group of middle school MUNers last year during lockdown. I had gone from being a delegate for 3 years to suddenly being the Deputy Secretary General of a freshly revived LEBMON 21. Between my own lack of chairing experience, the new virtual setting, and a past year of no MUN due to the global pandemic and our own national turmoil, I had no idea what I was doing. But we pulled through, made the best of a bad deal. Even better, we saw that we were already treading on shaky grounds and decided we might as well unearth the program altogether for what it was worth. Having revived and restarted the MUN program at ACS nearly from scratch, the LEBMON team and I found ourselves faced with the unparalleled freedom to change whatever we wanted. It was then that I decided, this is my chance to redefine what it means to be a delegate, to cultivate an MUN environment in which delegates are not pitted against each other, but rather aren't afraid to lean on one another from time to time. To build a team held together by a love for the activity as much as they are by a love for each other. To invite laughter and regard it as success rather than as unprofessionalism. To teach even the most uptight of MUNers that this can and should truly be fun. And finally, to be there to support the younger delegates who share the same passion for this club as I did when it was me and their shoes. Too often do we forget that the core purpose for us being here is to learn and to provide others with the chance to learn. And that is the crux of my decision-making philosophy when it came to everything LEBMON this year. It's the reason behind implementing the Diplomacy Award, systematically reshaping the way delegates and chairs regard true champions in this field of peace building. It's the reason why we pushed for a hybrid conference, uniting the local and international voices of the future, offering a platform for pure partnership and non-arbitrary connection. It's the reason for our theme being so unapologetic and resolute, empowering delegates to capitalize their fiery stances and firm opinions into the sort of energy that brings the waves of change crashing. Despite the literal and figurative revolutions and cycles of self-renaissance years, I still can't shake from my mind that memory of a little Celine, consumed by nerves as she presents her opening speech as delegate of Cuba in GA during LEBMON 18 on this very stage. I'm sure you all have that as well. Memories of frantically shaking your head as you retract a point of information, hiding in the bathroom to avoid a speech, and other slightly traumatic memories that you can't quite forget. And it's like that for a reason, because it's important to not forget. We need a reason to care about the things we work for in order to stick with them through the ups and downs. I love what I get to do at Levon because I'm constantly reminded of why I choose to do this. My reasons lie in the everyday things, the spark of curiosity in the eyes of our newest delegates, the excitement that radiates from the members of the Secretariat gushing over their councils, and of course, the rush and tears of emotions that consume me while I'm writing an opening address like this one. This is why I do MUN. This is why I put my heart and my soul into building something I hope will outlive me when I'm gone. I look back at where we started and then at where we are now, and I smile. This has been, on many levels, a year of reevaluation, rebirth, and reinvention. And so, over these 3 days, as we busy ourselves in creating solutions for these pressing world issues, let us not forget to create change as well. I want you to remember that we are here to learn, to live, to be students, to be delegates, to be agents of change, to take what we've gained and later apply it in our day-to-day lives, to meet like-minded debate enthusiasts, to make friendships that will long outlast this weekend, this month and year, to make mistakes and grow as a team, as a family, to face adversity, to challenge the status quo, to be brave, to have fun, and to take part in this beloved endeavor that we so fondly call MUN. Thank you. I will now be handing the floor over to our DSG, Elias Diede, who will deliver a few opening remarks of his own and then introduce our keynote speaker. Thank you all once more. And with that, Deputy Secretary General Elias, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Celine. Again, my name is Elias Ziadeh, and I'll be serving as your Lebmon 22 Deputy Secretary General. My MUN journey began 6 years ago, and its bittersweet conclusion begins today. I want to start by thanking you, delegates, secretariat, advisors, press team, admins, and esteemed guests for being gathered here today. It is a testament to the combined willpower at Lebmon 22 to be a force of positive and, of course, disruptive diplomatic change in our world. Before I introduce the keynote speaker, I also want to recognize the schools represented at Lebmon 22 today. Joining us remotely across the many seas, we have the American International School of Chennai in India, the American International School of Zagreb, Croatia, Amman National School in Jordan, Delhi Public School in India, ISC Sabis Erbil in Iraq, Lincoln School in Nepal, Saudi Aramco Expatriate School in Saudi Arabia, and the American International School of Muscat, Oman. And with us today at UN ESCWA, we have our very own ACS Beirut delegates, as well as our local schools, Brahmana High School, Rafiq Hariri High School, Hussam Eddin Hariri High School, Maqasid Islamic High School, and Riyad al-Sulah Secondary School. Lebmon 22 is also excited to continue the Lebmon Outreach Program. It is a parallel external MUN program to widen the scope of MUN within Lebanon. It was launched last year in partnership with Teach a Child, a local educational NGO. And this year, alongside Chief of Staff Evanur Ahmedi, I have the honor of leading an expanded outreach program. And now on to our esteemed keynote speaker this morning, Mr. Karim Khalil. Mr. Khalil is a career diplomat at the United Nations, serving as Secretary of the Commission here at UN ESCWA since 2011. In this post, He has led discussions and worked with regional leaders to promote the 2030 Agenda or the Sustainable Development Goals, embodying the mission at ESQA of promoting economic and social development in the Middle East. Mr. Khalil is an ardent advocate of the SDGs and their application in our region. Through facilitating ESQA's sponsorship of our conference this year, we empower the youth in Lebanon. So, please welcome Mr. Khalil to give his address, followed by some questions moderated by Chief of Staff Ahmed.
Thank you, Elias. Celine, Ali. Celine, that was quite refreshing. Really. You'd be surprised how the themes that you've touched upon are more or less mirrored in what I'm going to say. And it shows the level of maturity that you and other MUN graduates exhibit. Good morning to all of you, to those who are here with us in the UN House and to those who are joining us virtually. I've been told that we have over 200 participants today in ESQA and around 150 following us participating virtually. That's quite a huge turnout. And I can't tell you how thrilled I am to see that our partnership with the American Community School here in Beirut is continuing. Now it's the fifth year, as I understand, and that we have this model hosted in our premises. We really love to have you here. And more importantly, I'm thrilled also to have a group of bright, committed young leaders to be in our midst. We at ESQA are really supportive of this model United Nations, and we're supportive of the way it has grown over the years and expanded to include more and more schools and to have more and more participants from other countries in the region and beyond, now from India. So it's quite a remarkable growth in the reach. Now, I'm here today with the hope to achieve two goals. One is to assure you that you have made possibly one of the most important decisions in your teens when you signed up to a model United Nations and agreed to be part of this wonderful experience. The second goal I hope to achieve is to convince you that despite all the turmoil in the region and globally, a better future is possible through international cooperation and a multilateral diplomacy. Now, why do I say that your experience in the coming 3 days is extremely important and maybe life-changing? Allow me to share with you a story of a young man who was about your age, sitting in a seat not so different from the one that you're sitting in right now. He was attending a Model United Nations conference for the first time. He didn't know much about the UN, nor for that matter, the subjects that were being discussed. He just went there to have fun. Little did he know then that this experience would be a window that would shape and define his life. He was captivated with the idea of discussing the world's complex challenges with others to find common solutions to them, and became fascinated with this noble organization, wishing to work under its banner one day. Of course, it was a dream then. Seemed like an unreachable one. How can one achieve such a far-fetched goal? Surely there are millions of people out there who share the same dream of wanting to work for the UN. The young man wondered to himself. It turned out that, as difficult as it may be, that dream was attainable. After joining the Foreign Service of his country and becoming a diplomat, he ultimately ended up working for the UN, the pinnacle of multilateral diplomacy. That man, not so young anymore, is standing before you today. welcoming you to a model United Nations.
بس شايف بالأونسكو يلا
Just like the one he attended a quarter of a century ago. And I can't tell you how blessed I feel that the UN has provided me with the opportunity to do what I love the most, helping countries that find common solutions to complex challenges that they face. What started off for me as a random experience in my youth turned out to be a life-changing engagement that took me on a journey unfolding every day with exciting new happenings. I wish you the same, as you are all charting your own distinct path in life. Whether you share a similar dream or not, I'm sure that by just being here, you will be inspired in ways that will impact your educational and career choices. In the coming 3 days, you will make new friends who have similar interests. Some of them may become lifelong friends, and others simply cross paths with you some years down the road and reminisce about how eye-opening this experience was. In this MUN, you'll learn to appreciate the joy of thinking collectively to resolve the world's most intractable problems, making the 1+1 indeed a 3. Through collaborative work, we can multiply our energies and bring about novel solutions we never thought were possible. Here, you will develop an ability to listen and comprehend what the others consider dear to them. An ability that is not only needed in the workings of international diplomacy, but will be essential for your success in your professional and personal lives. Now, let me turn to my second objective, which is how multilateral diplomacy can help us forge a better future. I know it's extremely difficult to think about how we can improve things when we're surrounded by negative developments all around us. Wars, economic crises, climate change, threats left, right, and center. Yet I stand before you and tell you, the UN is about hope. Hope that together we can build a better future for ourselves and for generations to come. Resolving such huge crises cannot be done by one community, by one country, or by one world region. The whole world must work as one to resolve such grave problems. The theme of your model is disruptive diplomacy, a well-chosen concept that inspires us to think about how we can make our world a better place by being bold, as Celine has mentioned, and creative. For any global challenge today we face, the UN has or can provide the solution. I assure you of that. We know that inequality is on the rise, but we have developed the policies that can redress the existing inequalities. We see the adverse impacts of climate change, but we also have identified the actions needed to kickstart climate action and hopefully reverse the current ominous trends. We're not on track to achieve sustainable development, but we have adopted the 2030 Sustainable Development Agenda, which charts a coherent vision and a roadmap to realize that objective. So now, if the UN has the answers to many of our problems today, what is the issue then? The answer does not lie in what needs to be done, but in how to do it. We need to bring back faith in multilateral actions as opposed to unilateral ones, in cooperation as opposed to rivalry. And this is what you're trying to do, or hopefully will be doing in the MUN in the coming 3 days. It is through innovative concepts and approaches like disruptive diplomacy, where you are trying to think outside of the box on means of implementing what we know through science and through history really works. I want to leave you with one final thought. The UN represents an important phase in the evolution of human society. After two devastating global wars, the world resolved that it should not allow such atrocities to happen again. Let it be clear in your minds that despite all the criticism that has been leveled at the UN over the years, the world would have been a completely different place without it, a much worse place. The UN sets the moral direction for humanity. It is, and it will remain, its compass of values. In conclusion, I'd like to remind you once again of the two things I started off with: personal fulfillment and hope. Let this experience be one that will help you profit from both. I wish you all the best in your deliberations and in your lives. Thank you. I understand you want to ask me questions or what?
Yeah,
Sure.
I'll ask you some questions. So hi, good morning. I'm Ivanur Ahmedi, Lebanon 22 Chief of Staff and Head of Press Corps. I want to start off by saying that it's a pleasure being here at UN ESCWA today. And I want to thank you all again for being here and Mr. Khalil for your amazing speech. We're going to be opening up a Q&A session to anybody that has questions to Mr. Khalil. So to any of our attendees in person, if you have any questions, just raise your hand and we'll have one of the admin staff give you a mic, introduce yourselves, and then ask your question to Mr. Khalil. And then I'll be reading out all the questions coming from our online attendees on Zoom. So if there are any questions on the floor, please raise your hand now. Yes, over there.
When did you discover that you wanted to go into like a job that's in the UN and related to UN?
You want me to answer right away, or should we take them one batch and then we can?
You want to go ahead and answer? Or
I think it would be better just to take them in
gather all the questions.
one
Okay.
batch and then we can answer.
are there any other
in
questions?
several batches so that we can
Okay.
lump them together.
We'll take like 2 more questions. Yeah, in the back there.
Hi, I'm the delegate of France, and I would like to ask you, what inspired you to continue your journey with the UN?
Okay, and one more question.
Hi. To what extent are resolution papers applicable?
Okay, for that question, do you want it, is it related to Mr. Khalid's speech or to the conference itself? Okay. Mr. Khalid, do you want to take one
Sure.
more? Or?
Yeah, one more.
Okay, one more question.
What do you think is the greatest challenge that society faces today?
If I can. Okay. Now let me start with when did you discover? I was just talking about my first experience with the MUN. I felt then that this is something. It was really, a dream to work in. I never thought that I would be able to work in the UN, but I found then that, this type of engagement, this type of interaction where we, put our heads together, we fight, and we tried at the end to find common solutions. I found, a particular joy in that. And I found a particular joy in working on public issues. And it was generated here in a model UN. as I said, you never know whether you will be able to work in the organization. It was just a dream, but things led, my study. I studied political science and economics, and then I went on to join the Foreign Service of Egypt, and things developed from there on. And even here, I was representing Egypt in this very room in meetings of ESCO. I didn't think that I would be working for the UN. So it's a journey, and has its turns, but things led one to the other. I think the study, the choice of the study, and then the choice of the line of work, and in each part of this journey, I knew that this is something that I'm enjoying, and I think this is the key. That you enjoy really what you do. Be it through, in a national foreign service where you are dealing with bilaterally or even in a multilateral forum, or be in the UN where you have the whole globe in front of you. So this is now on what the other question was. What inspired me to what inspires me in my work? It's not working in the UN is quite difficult. There are a lot of frustrations. You deal with countries. Countries have different priorities. We believe that we know the solutions, as I was saying, and we know what works and what doesn't work. But it's not necessarily a straightforward thing, to convey and to tell them that this is the right thing to do. There is always the political economy. There is always the domestic challenges. And sometimes it's frustrating. It takes years and years to effect change. But once that change is being adopted or endorsed by a country or by several countries, I wouldn't tell you how much self-fulfilling this is. This is where really the thing that makes you keep going. And it happened in many instances. You feel really frustrated that what we've been advocating in terms of climate change, in terms of governance, is not happening. But once it happens, you forget all the frustrations that you've been facing over the years, and it becomes really an enlightening moment. So this is actually what inspires me to keep on going. And when you see people that are changing, things are changing. It takes time, but it's really a steady change. And this is the thing about the UN, and this is one of the things that we're often criticized about as UN, that change is slow, but when it happens, it's permanent. Now, what was the resolutions? The resolutions of the UN are political commitments, of course, as I don't want to get into the discussion that you will have, but they are political commitments. They are manifestations of political commitments of the members of the UN. They're as good as the implementation of these commitments. At the end of the day, it's a political commitment. Some of them have legally binding, as you know, in the Security Council, but generally they are political commitments. Countries, when they agree on the resolutions, they agree because they want to implement them. We don't assume that they agreed on the resolutions not to implement them. Now, the greatest challenge, that's a difficult question. There are many challenges, but I think the greatest challenge is losing hope. And I think this is the greatest challenge. And that's why restoring hope at all levels, but particularly in your age, that you think or you believe that the future will be better and that there is hope for a better future. I think this is the most important thing. We have climate change, we have conflicts, but the most important thing is not to lose hope. You want to take another one?
Yeah, should we take another batch of questions? If anybody has any questions on the floor, please raise your hands. We have the young man in the front.
Thank you. What role does youth play in creating this multilateral diplomacy that you were talking about?
Any other questions on the floor?
You mentioned that the greatest challenge is losing hope. How do you deal with this challenge? How do you restore the hope when the conflict is really hard.
We also want to attend some questions from the attendees online. Please type your questions in the chat and minimize the chat to just questions and no other conversations. So we'll open up the chat in the next batch of questions. The young man over there.
When you said that the greatest challenge that it was losing hope, what obstacle made you lose hope?
Can we have a mic to the man over there?
What do I need to be in your place in the future?
And if we can add just one more, I have my own personal question. It's, you had all these big dreams when you were younger. How did you overcome the discouragement that one would feel when having such big dreams?
Okay, now the role of youth in multilateral diplomacy. This is the question. I think we're talking about the 2030 agenda, and probably there will be something, beyond the 2030 agenda. There will be always a moving goal that we are aspiring to achieve. You are the ones that will be enjoying the benefits of that, of whatever outcomes that, the global plans that the UN is putting together. So you have to be part of those plans. You have to understand, you have to understand what the 2030 agenda is. What are the 17 goals? What are the targets? What are the problems? Where are the problems? Why is my country not achieving the SDGs? This is how you get involved. This is how you change the discourse, by understanding first. And this is the first step. Being here in the Model United Nations, learning what the Security Council is, what the 2030 agenda is. This is the first step, to learn and to understand and to appreciate the issues, to be engaged. You have to engage. This is how you change. If you want to repeat the same mistakes of the past, you just sit back. And this is your role. I think this is, and I really commend you that at your age, you're showing this commitment to change. Now, on restoring hope, or how do we restore hope when everything is bad around us? I think despair is criminal. We cannot despair. We have to have hope, especially you. It's easy to fall into the world is going into a global war, and we're not, climate change is happening. It's easy to despair. But when we're saying that we know that there are answers to our problems, and there are solutions to our problems, and we're not implementing it, it's a problem here in the mindset. And the mindset can only change by not losing hope. This is the starting point. If you lose hope in multilateral diplomacy, if you lose hope in the idea, in the notion that we can work collectively together to find solutions, then there is no future for humanity. And this is, often a discourse, a narrative that we see floating, particularly in times like the times we live in now. But again, can you imagine a world without the UN, the conflicts that would have erupted? Of course, there are conflicts that are erupting, but can you imagine another global war? It's only because the UN is there. So I think, it's a responsibility, for all of us, not only for you, not to lose hope. Now, how do you join the UN? How do you join anything that you want, or how do you achieve anything that you want? I think for me, the biggest thing is commitment and believing that someday things will happen. We often face in our professional lives ups and downs, but at the end of the day, when you believe that you are committed to what you want to do, something positive will happen. Not necessarily the same objective that you want, but something positive will happen. I think oftentimes we think that, I wanted to join the UN. What if I did not join the UN? is it the, you know, you might join something better, you might do something better in your life. Sometimes I envy, you know, those who are working in civil society, you know, working in the field with the, you know, saving lives. It's always, you know, there's always something, you know, it's about you, what you want to do with your life and what you enjoy the most, and whether you have the commitment to do that, to follow through. It's not the job as much as it's what you want to do and what you enjoy doing. Believe me, you can, you know, you can, and I've seen this in my professional life. You know, you find people joining a job that they like, but after a while, they find that it's not giving them joy, and it's not what they had thought it would be. So look for something that gives you joy and that you can commit yourself to, and work hard in. I don't know, it's not an easy formula, but I think this is what worked for me. And you should find what works for you.
Hello? Okay, we have time for one more batch of questions. There's 2 online questions that I would like to read out, and we can take 1 or 2 more from the people attending in person. The first is from Melanie, and she asks, what advice would you give our generation through all the challenges we have faced, like the pandemic, etc.? The second is from Sarah. She asks, I wanted to ask, how did you overcome the fear of public speaking? And there's one from Nawal asking, she's speaking from Amman National School. And they ask, do you believe that the cause for some problems is diagnosing problems incorrectly and applying the wrong solutions? We can take 1 or 2 more from in-person attendees.
Hello. To what extent do you believe diverse cultural backgrounds create a challenge against the United Nations?
Can you repeat the question again, sorry?
To what extent do you believe diverse cultural backgrounds create a challenge against the United Nations?
I'm sorry, you said diverse?
Yeah, diverse.
Do we have any more questions?
What's one piece of advice that you would give someone in Model United Nations like me?
Let me start with the final one. I think just be yourself. On the question of the advice, be yourself. You know, I remember the first time I joined, I was quite intimidated, as you were saying, by those who are more experienced and those who can speak better and those who can, you know, who are familiar with the issues more than I was. So I was quite intimidated, and actually it kind of inhibited me from really enjoying it to the maximum. So I think for the younger delegates, I think probably don't be inhibited by those who are experienced like Lynn, and you know, there is no right or wrong. There is no right or wrong. I think this is where you are allowed to experiment and make mistakes. Now, on the question on diagnosing the problems incorrectly, that's why we're getting the wrong. I think it's a good point, but yeah, from where I see it, and it could be a personal view, but I think you know, especially in areas like climate change, you know, there is analysis, the evidence, the science proves, you know, that we know what is happening, we know what the problem is, we know what needs to be done. It's the political commitment to address the problem rather than understanding the problem, understanding the issues. I think we've, you know, at least in the UN, we believe that we're impartial in terms of our analysis. We know, we know what causes inequality. We know inequality is on the rise. We know what needs to be done. We know the kind of policies that are inclusive. Again, the issue is the political commitment, and this is where, and it's not an easy thing. I'm saying this. It's not an easy thing. It's all about the political commitment and the political will to implement reforms and to take action. But from where I stand, I think in almost all the pressing challenges that the world is facing, people know the problem, know what needs to be done. Now, what advice should I give you during the pandemic or after the pandemic? I'll tell you what I've done during the pandemic. It was a difficult time for me as well, not only for young people, but I tried to upskill. I took online courses. I did, we weren't interacting much socially, so I had a bit of more, more time than I usually have. So I used the time to upgrade my skills. And this is also another thing, don't think that, what you study in school, what you study in the university is enough. Today's marketplace requires you that, it requires a lifelong commitment to learning. Learning is a non, you will continue to learn until the day that you retire, probably the day you die. So this is another advice probably that you should take to heart. I'll give you what, from a personal experience. 3 years back, I was, we had reforms in ESCWA, and one of the portfolios that were added to my portfolio, which is already quite significant, was the communication portfolio. And I haven't studied communication. I haven't worked on communication before. And I had to study. I had to study again. I had to work hard to understand. Of course, we have a team of experienced communication specialists, but in order to lead them, I had to have that kind of knowledge. And I would spend hours after work, and the beauty of it is that now knowledge is available everywhere. So there is no excuse that you don't, upgrade your skills, you don't learn. So I think this is something that you should all know, that it's, education and learning will not stop with high school, will not stop with university. You will always have to learn in order to be competitive in the marketplace. Thank you all. Thank you.
That's the end. Hello. Can you hear me? That's the end of our Q&A session. I want to thank you again, Mr. Khalil, for your amazing speech and insight. Next, we have our immediate past Secretary General and Liaison Officer, Saeed Al-Qadi.
So good morning. As the Lebanon 22 Liaison Advisor and, as Eva said, the immediate past Lebanon Secretary General, it's my honor to welcome you all to UN ESCWA. Over the next 3 days, it's going to be my and the 12 very esteemed admin staff amongst duties to make sure that we all have a very pleasant and seamless experience in this stunning venue. So that said, we are in a UN building. You were briefed on COVID protocol via email, and we're just briefed on the security protocol. We have 3 important notes that we want you to keep in mind as Lebanon protocol at UN ESCWA. 1, for all permanent Lebanon attendees, that goes for delegates and advisors. Please note that movement is restricted to this building only. Should you need to leave and then re-enter upon security, you need to inform myself or one of the 12 admin staff. Make sure you come to UN ESCWA each day with your badge to enter the building. 2, in terms of movement within the building, movement in floors 3 and 6 are restricted to only IMF and HC delegates respectively. Advisors, you may float between B1, this floor, the mezzanine, and floors 3 and 6. Otherwise, all other floors, including the ground floor, are considered out of conference grounds. And 3, to echo what was stated by the security team, today is a full working day at UN ESCWA. So especially for HC and IMF delegates, your council is situated in the middle of a very active HR and general functions administrative zone. So please keep that aware as you carry your business throughout the day. I ask advisors to stay in this room as we conclude the opening ceremony. And it's now my great honor to invite the whole core team to approach center stage so that we can officially declare Lebmon 22 Disruptive Diplomacy in session. We're now moving into recess, followed by moderated caucus in all your respective committees.